What if you woke up to an unexpected internet breakdown with no Google Maps to find your way in a strange city? With a credit card unable to pay for your lunch? You could argue that this kind of digital detox would be beneficial. Life without the internet is pretty hard to fathom. We use it for virtually everything in our lives, even for connecting with those around us. But the internet is a big place. In fact, over 53% of people on the planet are actively using it. Education is just one area that has been heavily improved by the internet and technology. Kids have more access to more education than ever before. Although, as great as it is, the internet can also be the source of many problems. Facebook experienced a data mishap that will change social media forever. Although you can't even imagine it, that time existed when internet was not there. These are the ancient times when everything was rural, kind of like the 90s. At that time, there were already such machines suddenly created by some demon called computers. But although it may seem crazy, they were all disconnected from each other as if they were living in isolation and they were only used for non-disturbed tasks such as writing text or working, although video games already existed. Thankfully, a few years later, everything changed. The internet came into our lives, cities grew, water irrigation watered our fields, and the world was filled with light and color. Some pursuits might argue that having no internet would be the best thing to happen. They are the same people who think it's horrible and that all millennials do is Instagram their entire day. They are not entirely wrong. Studies show that such incessant social media use can negatively impact our lives. What would change if we didn't have the internet? News. The way we take in news and information has been impressively quick thanks to the internet. Without it, we would rely on TV programs, newspapers, yes, the actual newspapers, and worst of all, word of mouth. If you think politics in the US have been wacky lately, imagine it even with fewer sources of information and no way to verify their credibility. We imagine politics would take a surprising turn, although we are not really sure which direction that would be. Health. However, having access to an online directory of symptoms has certainly helped millions. With such platforms, we can self-diagnose with a degree of accuracy. This saves us time and money on health-related costs. Without it, there would be a lot more and possibly unnecessary trips to the doctor. Even still, medical professionals now rely on a connected network to pass along patient data and research conditions. Having no internet would slow this process down for sure. We would need to look at maps to get to the places in a life without internet. You may be lucky to live in a time when maps are no longer needed. But those of us who have used them, we know the horrors of them. These were the days when it was necessary to look in a book hundreds of pages or a map which was always creased in order to find a way to reach another city or even worse, a specific street. And there was no one to understand that, no voice to guide you on your way. Some people who were desperate were even reckless enough to ask other passers-by about the best way to reach their destination. As we said, it was horrifying. We would be much worse informed in a life without the internet. Today, Google saves our lives several times a day. But imagine if it didn't exist. You'd probably try to take your own life instantly. Luckily, you couldn't do it because, without the Google, you wouldn't know how to do it. We should be talking to people face to face in a life without the internet. Now, imagine if social networks or WhatsApp didn't exist. Before you have a nervous breakdown, let me remind you of that time. Dark times in which we had to use instruments such as the landline telephone. There were no phones either, letters, carrier pigeons, or even personal contact. Or to communicate, we would be so very bored in a life without the internet. Imagine that you have to take a train ride and you don't have a smartphone with signal coverage. Suffice to say, it's clear that the internet has bettered our lives. We can communicate with every corner of the globe and even maintain friendships that were previously impossible, no matter how good of a pen pal you were. At Gadget Flow, we thrive on the internet and love all that it has done for innovation. But life is about balance. We have the internet at our disposal and we can use it or not use it just for about everything.